Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, if you're not satisfied with your love or sex life, I want you to know that I get how painful it is. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do to change things up and get the results you want. But having spent 20 years as a dating and relationship coach, supporting thousands of men to have the relationships and sex they want, I know it's possible for you when you get the right kind of support. As a woman coach, I bring a unique advantage by helping you understand how women think and feel and why they say and do things that can be so frustrating for you. My specialty is being able to tell within minutes why you're losing attraction, trust, or respect from women, and how to turn that around. Even though you've likely been raised to think you should be a man who doesn't need any help, it just doesn't work that way because none of us were handed a guide to love or sex. So every month by application, I open my calendar to a few men for consultations. Men are amazed to walk away from these sessions feeling more confident in and out of the bedroom. Coaching isn't for everyone. I work with men who are willing to be honest about their role in the situations they've created. So if you're still playing the blame game, this isn't for you. But if you're ready to take action and have a love and sex life you feel great about, book a time to meet with me. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/consult and fill out the form to tell me more about you so we can set something up. That's shanajamescoaching.com/consult. Enjoy today's podcast. Welcome to Man Alive. I'm your host, Shana James, and I'm here today with Larry Hagner of The Dad Edge. I'm so happy to be here today with you, Larry. We've developed a relationship over the years, and I really respect you and your work and what you're doing. And I love that you support dads. And it's always a joy to get to be with you. So thank you for being here.
It's always a joy getting to be with you as well.
Thank you. So we are going to talk today about relationships and particularly about something you teach in your Extraordinary Marriage course. You know, what has people feel loved, what has people feel unloved, and your experiences with it. And the other thing that I'm excited to dive into that's part of this is cell phones and media and this, the impact that it has. I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet. The impact that it has on relationships, on family, and how we've all gotten, swept up in this craze or in this type of life. And I know you're making some changes in your own life, so I'm excited to hear about that as well. So where do you want to dive in? You want to talk a little background of the Extraordinary Marriage course and how you get into the loves and unloves, or you feel free to dive in where you want to.
Yeah, so I'll just dive in with I used to be the guy, well, still am the guy that really needs these reminders and these lessons. And I've been married for this year will be 21 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And I would have never thought, by the way, we'd be married this long because of how we started.
Really?
And I would say the first 10 years of our marriage, like it wasn't terrible. It was mediocre at best. I think we would both tell you that easily.
Yeah.
Probably my wife more than me. And she might even give it a bit of a lower rating.
Yeah.
And that had a lot to do with me. And, it really had to do with the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a good blueprint growing up of what it meant to communicate well and connect well. And in fact, the crazy thing is I even saying this out loud, I kind of laugh about it. Like when my wife and I dated for 7 years before we got married.
Yeah.
And my wife and I was like, my wife was like, hey, are we gonna get married like at some point? I'm like, why would we get married? That's the first step to divorce. Like that was literally
That was
what
yeah.
that was. I mean,
I remember saying in one of my relationships, like, you don't see that this is like a slow path to hell when you
right.
start dating. And I was like, he was like, no, I think you should check that one.
Right. Exactly. You and I, like, if we would have dated, we would have been like, hey, let's start out really, really well. And then as soon as this starts to go to the slow path of hell, we'll both just let each other know.
Yeah. We'll
And
just
we'll just go on our merry way
ease
after that.
out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think I felt that way because growing up, my mom was married 3 times over my 18-year childhood, right?
Yeah.
And there was in between those marriages, it was a revolving door of
Yeah.
men that she dated. And some were like a one and done date. And some were like, oh, we'll stay around for a few months, and some stayed a couple years
Wow.
and then some. And but it was always like the same type of experience. Started out super strong, amazing. This is the best person ever in my life.
Yep.
And then it was like this slow road to hell, as you called it. So like literally my viewpoint of marriage was, why would I want to do
Yeah. Why
that?
bother?
Why bother? In fact, I remember being through college, and I think I was like, I think I'm just going to be a single guy like my whole life,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to get into relationships. I'm not going to have kids. It just seems disastrous on all levels.
Yeah. Which
But,
again makes so much sense. We're raised in these, situations that
right.
they have a huge impact on us. But
Yeah,
fortunately, it sounds like you ended up with a woman who challenged that for you and was like, hey, what's happening here?
she totally did. And in fact, even when I would say things like that, she's like, that's really a terrible outlook. She's like, my parents have been married since they were 20, and her parents are still married,
Wow. Amazing.
45 years later. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing about my wife's experience. And I think this really tells the tale of, our childhood might give us a huge perception on relationships in general.
Yeah.
No one in my wife's family, and my wife has a huge family
Yeah.
going back as far as we know, 4 or 5 generations deep. Not one person in her lineage has ever been divorced.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's unheard of. Never happens. Like
Yeah. That's
they stick it
fascinating.
out through thick or thin.
Huh.
So that was
Interesting.
her view of it. Yeah.
Right.
But not mine. And so but we did get married. And I remember when I got married to her, and I was like, I had this tremendous feeling of love.
Mm.
And I was like, man, if I'm ever gonna take a shot on marriage, like this is the
This is
woman.
the one. Hmm.
This is the one to do it with, right? Because like I think we've got a really good fighting chance, and mostly because of her belief and not mine,
Yeah.
which sounds terrible to say, but
No,
I it yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. But I would say the first 10 years of our relationship, it was mediocre at best, but the first 10 years we had 2 boys, and we had just kind of like fell into, I think, the trap that everybody else did, which
Yeah.
is we existed and we had a decent relationship, but it really wasn't as connected as I think we both had liked.
Yeah.
There was there wasn't deep conversations. There was more like high level conversations around parenting and
Logistical, like this is what needs to get
logistical.
done. And yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't really fight, and but we weren't like super crazy about each other either. We were like sort of like this in between.
Yeah.
And my view of it was, well, we're not fighting, so I guess we're okay. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I just knew, I felt, and so did she, that there had to be more. Like
Hmm.
there had to be more to this. And neither one of us knew exactly what to do. We did go through couples counseling. So we went through some marriage therapy together.
Yeah. Did that help?
And it did, but it was also kind of, we're talking like 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And I think we were both kind of young too. And it's just like, we were both like, okay, yeah, it's cool. I think we're kind of making some headway here, but it still felt really uncertain.
Uh-huh.
So that was our experience, I think, in the first half. And it really wasn't until I think right about 10 years ago, I could tell that there had to be some sort of, there had to be action that needs to be taken in order to make a relationship connected.
Yeah. Okay. And what did you do? Sounds like something happened at that
Yeah.
moment. You recognized something or you took some action.
I did. So I had a really dark moment, which I think I've talked about more on your podcast, where I made 3 promises to myself when I got married, and one was I only want to be married once. That's it. So if this one doesn't work out, I don't really foresee myself getting married again.
Okay.
And second promise was I want to be a good dad.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I'm gonna do it the best I can.
Yeah.
And then the third promise was I'm never gonna strike my children in anger. I'm never gonna hit them in anger because I was a lot.
Hmm.
And I broke that last promise, and that was really the launching pad for Dad Edge. So my 4-year-old son, who is now 16,
Yeah.
who outweighs me by 20 pounds now,
Well,
and he's the center on the offensive line of his football team. He's literally one of the strongest people I've ever known, like physically. Like he
wow.
could literally put me through a wall. So I wouldn't try it on him now.
Yeah.
But I spanked him when he stepped out of line.
Yeah.
And I spanked him so hard, unfortunately, he lost his balance and he hit the ground.
No.
And I was devastated that I allowed my patience to get thin and to react the way that I did. And I was really upset. And that was 11 years ago and or 12 years ago now. And that propelled me onto a journey of what we're doing today within Dad Edge, which is to simply positively disrupt how we approach being a man, being a husband, being a father, how we connect, how we have conversations, how we make memories, how we I had this incredible podcast guest named Stephen Robertson who wrote this really interesting book, and but one of the most fascinating interviews I think I've had yet, called Aliens Among Us: How to Relate and Lead the Gen Z Generation.
Wow,
And
that's
he
so
called,
weird. I
it is.
actually went to an improv show the other night with my kid, and we had to put in titles for like they were gonna do an improv movie, and my title was chosen, and it was called Aliens Among Us. Just
No
a little
way.
bit of a bizarre moment, but okay. So back random moment back to the Aliens Among Us, talking actually about Gen Z or Gen X, you said, or
Yeah.
Gen Z,
Or whatever. I can't even
whatever the
keep
new
up with him.
generation is, because I
Whatever the
think we're
new
beyond
generation
Gen
is.
Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But he talked about this really cool concept of, and he related it to, the connection with people
yeah,
and people who know each other in relationships. You have expectations, right? Like we know we're going to eat dinner together every night. We know
yeah,
we're going to bed in the same bed every night together, right? We know we're going to see each other in the morning as we pass by.
yeah.
And he said that's he shared this experience that he had when he was at a speaking event in Brazil, where they had like this Brazilian chocolate. I can't even pronounce it what it is, but it's so good. And he told the concierge one night as he's walking by to check into his room, and he had been to this hotel before. And they're like, "Hey, Mr. Robinson, how are you? You having a good evening? Can I reserve a restaurant for you for dinner?" And he had this box of 6 chocolates, and he's like, "I think I'm good. I'm really tired." He goes, "This is my dinner." He's like, "I'm so looking forward to it because I love these chocolates more than life itself. And every time I come to Brazil and I stay here, like literally, this is what I look forward to.
Wow.
They're so delicious. They're like, I literally have to like take my time eating them. And I almost want to journal how good they are so I can enjoy it." And the next time he checked into that hotel,
They
he
brought
got,
him the chocolate.
what's that?
Did they bring him the chocolates?
They did. And what happened
Oh,
is he got up to his room and it was a normal room with a king size bed. And on the nightstand, there was a box of these chocolates with a note said, "Hey,
wow.
Mr. Robinson, I know you love these. And we just wanted to, give these to you and just enjoy them." And
Wow.
he was so blown away by that. He's like, "There's no other hotel when I go to Brazil that I'll ever stay at besides this one."
Right.
I didn't call my wife and tell her how great the king size bed is. I called my wife and told her how excited I was about this unexpected thing that happened. And he shared that as it relates to relationships. He's like, everybody, you go into a hotel, you expect either a double bed or a king size bed. You're not going to call home. The only time you actually ever talk about the bed is if it was bad.
Yeah.
He's like, but what would it look like if in your relationships you sprinkled in Brazilian chocolate experiences? Right. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh, that is absolutely tremendous. Right.
Wow.
Um, I don't remember exactly where I was going with that story.
Well,
But
you
I
said, I
just
mean, it was right after the experience with your son, and you started on this journey
did, yeah.
of waking up, it sounds like being more conscious of what you could do and what's
Waking up
possible.
and basically disrupting like the norms, right? And doing these things that are so memorable and connecting and so over the past 12 years, really what I've learned is how to connect with my wife
Hmm.
and to basically bring chocolates to the relationship
Metaphorical chocolate.
versus yeah, metaphorical chocolates, just instead of like the mundane, right? Or the
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So in your extraordinary marriage course, I know you have foundations. I mean, in some ways I'm hearing that and I'm like, okay, right. That's so simple to start to bring these unexpected, to make things more exciting. And there's so much more than that, right? Some couples do fight. Some couples, have resentment. They're not fighting, but there's that resentment in the background. And so is your stance like, hey, let's positively disrupt and also look at some of the baggage and resentments? Or is it that as we positively disrupt, some of that stuff just disappears? Or how do you work with that?
Yeah, so I think if I really boil it down to, over the past several years, we've had so many men who have come and done life with us in our mastermind, and so many married men who have come and done life with us in the mastermind. And one thing I can tell you is that most marriages, I would say to some degree are disconnected,
Yeah,
right?
I
And
agree.
we want more connection. And really, when I peel back the onion layers and I ask men, what is something that you truly want out of your marriage? And I think the answers would shock you. I hardly ever hear, I just want more sex.
Right. It's
And
usually not that. No,
it's not.
I hear that too.
It's actually, and I think that that's a wrong stereotype that people have on men, like, oh, we're just physical beings and we just want sex.
Yeah.
And that isn't true. Out of the 4,000 plus men who have done life with us since 2016, one common theme constantly comes out, and that's, I want to be better with communication.
Mm.
And but it's not just communication.
Yeah.
So when I peel back the onion layer even more, I'm like, well, what is it about your communication now that you would like to have more of?
Yeah.
And that it always boils down to, I want to have deeper conversations with my wife again.
Well,
Like, for us being a couple, I don't want to talk about like what sports do the kids have this weekend, who's going to be taking who to where,
yeah.
what are we doing for dinner, what's on the grocery list, here's the budget this month. Like those two, I want to have conversations around like, hey, like, what adventures could we have this year that would bring us closer together? What conversations could we have this year that would elevate our relationship? All these different things where men are just like, I just feel really stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to begin or what to do.
Yeah.
So that is what I hear the most. And so I developed this course because over the past 12 years, when it comes to communication, connection, elevating intimacy, deepening the passion you have in your relationship, it really does boil down to communication.
Yeah.
And within
I
that
totally agree.
communications, yeah, and within that communication structure, it's about connection. It's like, how do I connect to this woman that I love so much?
Yeah.
And know that the things that I'm going to communicate are actually the things that will move the needle in our relationship.
Yeah. I love that. One of my teachings is that conversations are made up of content and connection. And most times, and especially with men, most men are focusing on right? Like, what's the content? What's the logistical thing? And the connection piece, it's more elusive because it's more invisible. It's kind of under the surface. And what's the tone of our conversation? And are we actually feeling each other? Right. I mean, you can get specific in the like, okay, we're having these conversations and they're about things that are exciting, not just logistics. And then I think on another level, even, I don't want to call it deeper, but just like a more invisible layer, right? Is how are we actually feeling about each other, and what's the depth of the intimacy between us? So I love that you're talking about that connection comes through. It either does or it doesn't, right? Come through in communication. And oftentimes, I think especially men bring that piece of, okay, it's logistics. Maybe it's not. I shouldn't gender it because I think women too, and I can see this in myself. When I go into mommy mode, I'm like, there's 17 things on my list that need to get handled. This, I need to manage this and figure out this. So I think we all bring some of that.
Sure. Yeah, we do. And I think that's where you can do like this incredible pattern interrupt with your communication with each other.
Yeah.
Because we all have like these, my wife will tell you, she's like, as she was just telling me last night, she's like, I feel so overwhelmed lately. I feel so far behind on projects and things I need to get done. And like, I just don't even know where to start sometimes.
Yeah.
And, and then she's got 4 boys in her life that she's like, I feel like there's always somebody who needs
Oh my God.
something from me.
Yeah. I can't even
And
imagine with 4 of them.
yeah, it's hard. You got the one and we,
I only have one.
right. It's a lot. It's a lot. Um, but it's like, how do I do this pattern interrupt and how do we become a couple again?
Yeah.
Like, how are we like not mom and dad?
Yep.
And how are we a couple? Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we'll start out with, basic needs, right? And this is where I think the course that I'm talking about is really based on, women have 3 basic needs as it relates to relationships, and men have 3 basic needs when it comes to relationships. And the funny thing is neither one of them, at least from a surface level, right, have very little to do with sex. But if these needs are being fulfilled, then the physical side of our relationship usually naturally follows just fine.
Yeah.
But women need to feel seen, heard, and safe, right? So they need to be listened to.
Yeah.
They need to have that connection. They need, and not just the surface level where we're listening just for words,
Yeah.
right? We're actually connecting, not just listening.
I love that. Right. I just melted, not just listening for words, but listening beyond all of that. Yeah.
Right. And here's the good news. There's a way for men to not only let their wives know or their partner know that I'm listening to every word that you're saying. And
Mm,
by the way, I'm also feeling what you feel. And
yes.
I can, and not only that, but like I understand. And then on top of that, um, by utilizing some of the skills that I'm talking about, by default, we become much better listeners.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to think our way into listening
Yeah.
just by leveraging the skill that by teaching that course, it gives them the tool to do the very thing that moves the needle in their relationship.
I love that. That's awesome.
I can give you an example if you want.
Yeah. I also want to know the three things that men need.
Oh yeah, yeah. So men need to feel respected, appreciated, and validated.
Mm,
So nothing will hurt a woman, I think, more. Well, there are things that will hurt a woman more, but the things that sting in a relationship and the things that actually start like a cancer that metastasizes is a woman who feels like you're not even listening to me. You
right.
don't even hear me. I feel like you really kind of don't give me the time of day. When I do come and talk to you, all you do is provide me with solutions of things you think I should do, which by the way
Right.
doesn't help me at all.
Right.
Doesn't
Which
help
doesn't, I
us.
don't feel seen by that. I just feel like managed like an employee or something.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is that, I can understand that, so it's really funny because my dad of all people is really, really good at listening and he's really, really
Really?
good at yeah. And he's good at
Hmm.
asking questions. So much so that it annoys me because like when I go to him sometimes I'm like, dude, I appreciate you listening and I appreciate you asking me questions so I can think my way through this, but I
Yeah.
can't. I'm coming to you because I
Can
want
you
you to
just
tell
tell
me what you
me?
think I should do.
Yeah.
Just give me your advice.
Yeah.
So, but he's not a mind reader. I have to tell him that. And
No, I
so,
love that that happens because the dynamic in my family is there's no questions asked. There's no deeper, let me get to know you, let me get to understand you. So I think that has been something in my life that I've created a lot of in my relationships because I didn't have that or I don't have that. But I can also hear, right? There's a time and place where you're like, can you tell me what to do?
mhm,
I'm asking for some advice here.
yeah. Well, the funny thing too is I don't think that this is necessarily male and female. So like my wife has a great relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
Like they're really tight. My mother-in-law had my wife at 19. So like
Wow.
they're not far off in age and they're very
No.
close. And but my wife, even going to her mom, she's choosy about the topics because my mother-in-law will be like, well, Jess, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And she does that. God bless her soul, right? Because she loves my wife.
Right.
She loves
She
her
loves
daughter
her. She
and
wants her to do well.
yeah, she wants to protect her, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't land well for my wife. She's like, oh my God, I just want you to listen to me. Like,
Right.
that's it. I just want to
Right.
vent about this, right? And so anyway, when it comes to listening, right, or when it comes to one of the tools that we teach is using empathy,
Mm,
right? Brene Brown is great at this.
yeah.
Chris Voss, who's the former hostage negotiator for the FBI, he's great at teaching this as well. I love
Yeah.
his content.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. Um, when my wife and I used to have conversations, so like emotional labeling is one thing, right? And voice tone is also a big one. And generative questions are also a big one. And those are three skills that I'm talking about in the course. But I'll give you an example of the labeling. So when my wife used to come to me, or when I'd be like, hey, tell me about your day. And I'll give you two different scenarios. And
Yeah.
one is the toolkit and one is not.
Okay.
And this is what find that really trips up men. So my wife, I'd be like, hey, tell me about your day. How was your day? She's like, my day was challenging. And I'm like, okay, what happened? And immediately when she says my day was challenging, our
Yeah.
older conversations would be like, okay, I need to listen because I'm going to help her out.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the interesting thing. Regardless of how that lands for my wife or not, because she doesn't feel seen, she doesn't feel listened to when I'm helping her out.
Yeah.
In a man's mind and heart, I'm doing that because I love her, because
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, it pains me to see her in pain. So the
Yeah.
reason I'm giving solutions is because I want her out of pain as quickly as possible. So it actually
Right.
comes for us men,
Comes
it
from
comes
an,
from
yeah, it comes from a beautiful place.
it does. It comes from a great, great place.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll tell you just firsthand. The more I'm thinking about how I can help her out, the less I'm actually listening to her.
Right.
And that's the truth,
Right. You're
right?
going to
As
problem
much
solving mode, and then you're right. You're not actually there and present with her.
I'm not. In fact, as she's saying things, I'm like, oh, we should do that for that. Oh, we can do this for that. Oh,
Right.
and we should probably try this for that. So instead, and my wife, and like I said, she's a really patient woman. I would be like, so I'll give you an example. I'll be like, so tell me about your day. She's like, oh my God, today was horrific. And I'm like, well, what happened? She's like, well, and this is a real story. She's like, our mail system is messed up in our area for some crazy reason. We keep getting bills late. She goes, by the time we get a bill, it's
Actually
past
past.
the due date. And then I get a nasty letter. I got three today. She's like, Colton was, and this is my youngest, was an absolute nightmare today. He spilled his milk all over the floor. The dog walked through it and then tracked it all through the house. And then Lawson threw up. And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I was like, we should call the post office and we should let them know this. You know, we should also call our medical bill company and whoever sends us bill. We'll get that straightened
We
out.
should buy cups with lids, and we should.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, what about a sippy cup? We should
Yeah.
probably give him a sippy cup. And like, well, it's probably not that bad. You know, like we could clean it up. And she would be like, are you not even listening? I'm like, what
Right.
are you talking about?
I'm totally
Yes, I'm
listening. Of
listening.
course.
Yeah. Just, and she's like, but you're not hearing me. I'm like, I'm hearing every word you're saying.
It
And
reminds me
she's
of the
like,
whole nail in the head video, right?
I love
Like,
that
but you
video.
have a
Yeah.
nail in your head.
Yeah. If we pull that thing out, right? So, I would find also that the more she would talk and the more that I would use my brain power to problem solve, like the more disconnected I felt from her as well,
Right.
even though I was trying to help.
Yeah.
So, what we teach in that course is the power of creating space, using empathy, and using emotional labeling. So, like for instance, even though it sounds very tactical, right? But I think that's the way you need to teach some of these things.
Yeah.
When anybody in my family, and by the way, your kids, and this is for all the men out there who are not only have partners but have kids too. Your kids
Yeah.
actually have the exact same needs of your wife, boy or girl. So seen, heard, and safe. So you can use these same things with your kids. So instead of problem solving
Yeah.
and using my brain power, which by the way I don't have a whole lot of, but um, I actually let me back up for a minute. When my wife and I would get frustrated at each
Yeah.
other and have conversations like that, Shanna, I'm ashamed to say this. I'm like, I don't understand why you get so upset when I start giving advice. Like I'm trying to make this
I'm
better.
trying
She's
to
like, damn it,
help.
I'm trying to help. And she's like, but that's not what I need. And then I respond like this. If you don't want my advice, then don't come to me. Like if you don't want me to help, then just don't tell me.
Then just don't tell me. Right. What's the
Right.
point?
And I sit there and she would say things like, wow, that's kind of hurtful. And I'm like, well, like, what do you want me to do? And I would find myself frustrated and
Yeah.
she would find herself frustrated and it
Yeah.
would divide this wedge between us. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is the answer? And then I started learning these tools. So, like, I'll give you an example. When someone is feeling a negative emotion,
Yeah.
in order for them to feel seen, heard, and safe, what I try to do is say whatever I think that they're feeling out loud to them.
Yeah.
Right. And I follow a 3-step process called globalize, normalize, and invite for more.
Mm.
So if my wife, so let's take the same situation, right? I come, how was your day? Like, or, tell me about your day. And it's like, oh my God, today was horrible. And it's the medical bills and it's the mail and, this bill is late and Colton and the dog and all this. Instead of problem solving, I will like look her in the eye. I'll listen to every single word that she says. And then when she's done talking, I'm like, man, that sounds
That sounds
overwhelming.
rough. Yeah.
That sounds rough, right? So like what that is like that's globalizing. I'm actually putting the spotlight on her experience and situation, not on her. So if I say, if I add one word and that one word is you, if I say, you sound really overwhelmed,
Uh-huh.
like that could, people who feel quote unquote negative emotions, they don't necessarily feel great about feeling those feelings. In fact,
Uh-huh.
there's like some shame, there's some guilt, there's like, am I weak? Like, and for them to even talk about it, there has to be vulnerability and trust. And there has to be like, can I please unpack this? I trust you,
Yeah.
And when I put the word, you sound overwhelmed, they're like,
Huh.
yeah,
Interesting.
I do. Right. So instead I just take the word you out of it. I'm like, man, that
That sounds
sounds
overwhelming.
so overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
And I'll say it slowly like that in a loving voice tone. And then what I do is I normalize it. And I'll say something along the lines of like, if anybody experienced what you did, they would probably not be happy either. And in
Right. They'd
fact,
be
I know I've
losing
had
their
to,
shit. I don't know if I could
right.
do this. Yeah.
Or I'd say, if I had a day like that, I'd be a mess.
Yeah.
Just saying. And then I invite for more. Tell me more about what happened.
Mm.
Yeah. Instead of, and I think you can completely botch steps 1 and 2
Yeah.
by saying, why are you so upset?
Oh
Like
my
at the
God.
end, because
Right.
that's the way to ask for more as well. Like, why are you so upset? Like, or why do you feel that way?
Right. Well, in that
Or
tone, because I could see you
yeah,
actually also saying like, okay, let's like, I want to understand why you're so upset or what's really happening. Or I don't know, there could be different words, but right. Especially the tone that you just used. Why are you so upset?
oh yeah. And
That
that's,
does not go over well.
it doesn't. And in fact, that's actually one of the modules is voice tone,
Yeah.
is you can literally decimate your connection or
Yeah.
you can elevate
With
your
your tone.
connection just on tone.
Right. Now,
So
I'm curious about
yeah.
that too, because on the one hand, it's a simple thing to do, change your tone. But on the other hand, the tone actually comes from the whole inner landscape, right? So if there's like a volcano in there of past lava and resentments and frustration and irritation, right? I think in my experience, it can be really hard for someone to find that tone. So that can take some deeper work to unearth, where is this tone actually coming from? Why do I have this tone?
So why is in like the caring tone or why is in just
The
tonality at
the
all?
non-caring tone.
Yeah. So I think it really just, it involves intention, because if a person is focused on connection
Yeah.
and not just I need more information,
Yeah.
that's I think the game changer. So like for instance, when I see Jessica go through a day like that, and there have been worse days than that, like what I'm trying to actually do is let me feel what you're feeling.
Yes, that's what I was going
And
to say, right? When you actually practice standing in someone else's shoes and really feel what they're feeling, it
yeah,
tends to change that tone.
it does. And I think because like I've had days like that,
Yeah.
and plus when there's not another parent around, and you're like, I'm gonna pull my hair out right now, right? And you feel like a weak parent, you feel like a piece of
Mhm.
crap, you feel like you're not up for the task. Like there's all
Totally.
sorts of really big thoughts and deep feelings that go with that.
Yeah.
So, and voice tone can comfort someone tremendously, and you can be so genuine about it. So, like when I do that, I'm like, man, that sounds really tough today, Jess.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I feel your heart in that, right? I can
yeah.
feel your care come through that statement.
Well, so I think if you're a man, right, the care also comes from let me solve all your problems, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think what men have to realize is for the most part, that doesn't land that the way that they truly want it to land.
Right. Right.
The way that they truly want it to land is I love you, I care about you. I'm just trying to connect with you. So
Yeah.
like the voice tone, the words, and then when I say, tell me more, like that's a lot,
Yeah.
right? Tell me more about what happened today.
Yeah. And
That's
in
an
order to
in
even get to that place to say, tell me more, right? You have to let go of the shame or that sense of I'm supposed to be fixing this. I'm supposed to be the problem solver. I'm supposed to be, right? If I don't do that, then somehow I'm weak. That I imagine comes up. And that I mean, I've heard a lot of men say that. Well, if what I'm just listening without problem solving, that has me feel like I'm not man enough.
it does it, and for some guys, it even feels like a feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
But what I'll tell you, it's one of the most masculine things that you can do is to create that space, that safety,
That
that
safety.
connection and conversation,
Yeah.
because that's what she need. Now, here's the thing: there are some times where Jessica, like me with my dad, right? I'm like, she's like, can you just tell me what you think we should do?
Yeah.
So in cases where I'm not really sure, I'm not a mind reader, and
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be, and I don't try to be. I'll just ask. I'll say, you know what? I want to be the best possible person for you right now.
Yeah.
And
How
I
can
don't
I
know
love
exactly,
you? How can I support
yeah,
you?
because I love you.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what's needed right now. And
Yeah.
again, I take that you word out. I don't know what you need right now because I think that doesn't land well. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure what's needed right now. And if you would like for me to listen, man, I'm on board. I will listen as much as you need. and we'll talk. And also, if you want to talk solutions, like we can do that too. So
Yeah.
whatever
I
one,
love that.
whichever
You're
one,
offering, and then she
yeah,
gets to choose. And even before, when you said sometimes she wants a solution, she was the one who asked for that, right?
right,
She was driving that versus you just assuming.
right,
Yeah.
right. And I always say, which one feels best to you. And
Yeah.
I purposely don't, and I do this with my boys, even though they're boys. I don't say which one do you think would be better?
Huh.
Because
Which one
I
actually
don't,
feels best?
yeah, which one feels best? Because
Yeah.
what I really want and what she wants is that emotional connection. So which one feels best to you?
Yeah.
And she'll tell me, she'll be like, you know what? I just need you to listen. Like, okay, great. And you know what's really
Right.
cool is I can just sit back and listen and I can just be a really good listener. But the cool thing for me on my end for guys is that when I know I can turn off the problem solving because I know that that's not even appropriate or what she needs or wants,
Yep.
and I'm all about connection. And when I'm looking for, because when she starts to talk, I immediately start asking myself, what is she feeling?
Uh,
What is she going through? What is this experience that she had today and how is it impacting her?
yeah.
I become like I hang on every single word that she says and
Mm,
I do it
yeah.
from like an emotional place of connecting with her
Yes.
because I don't have to worry about solutions. All I have to
Right.
worry about is her, which I
Right.
love that.
Right. And all you have to do is like really feel into her in the moment versus solving something, right? It's actually can be easier once you finally let go of, oh, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I'm supposed to be fixing this. I just get to be here with her right
Yeah.
now.
Can
Yeah.
I give you one more example that actually just landed today?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 4 boys, and my wife will tell you this too. 3 out of 4 of them are daddy boys. Like they come to me for everything. It
Yeah.
actually kind of shocks me. Like they want to talk to me before her about things. They obviously want to do things with me because I'm like their play toy.
Yeah.
But even when it comes to like emotional support, 3 out of 4 of them will come to me. And now my 16-year-old is a mama's boy. He's the football player.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. He's like this monster, but he like worships the ground my wife walks on and
Right.
just loves her to death and always wants to be around her. I just love the
Right.
fact that he's like that. But my 10-year-old, I'm actually shocked we lasted this long, but my 10-year-old lost a tooth yesterday and he caught my wife trying to slide the money under the pillow as she took
Yeah.
his tooth. And she was like, oh my God, like I think, and she told me this before he got up. She's like, I think we're screwed. Like, I think he knows now. So I'm in my office early this morning. My 10-year-old comes walking in and he just had this look on his face. And I'm like, hey, he's like, is the tooth fairy real, Dad? And I'm like, and he's 10 and a half years old. I'm like, why do you ask? He's like, Mom came in my room really early this morning. She was searching under my pillow and the money was there, but my tooth was still there. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, and we had the conversation and he cried. It kind of broke my heart. I'm
No,
like, but I was like, you know what, man? And here's the thing, right? Perfect example. I was like, man, I can see you're sad about this.
totally. Yeah.
And and I remember I was like, Lawson, I found out when I was 8 and I was sad too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, but you know what? I was like, we do this because it's not fun to lose a tooth and it kind of scares us when we're little. So like if we have something to look forward to, like the tooth fairy coming, when we pull that tooth out, we get a little bit of money and we're excited to go to bed. Like it makes the experience just a little better, don't you
Yeah.
think? And he's like, yeah, it does, but it's still like upsetting, like that kind of thing. So anyway, I told my wife that, and her response was, why didn't he come and talk to me?
Mm,
And I'm like, I was like, well, what do you mean? And she goes, the boys never come and talk to me about this stuff. Like, why are
why
you
are they
always
coming
the
to you?
go-to?
Uh-huh.
Like you're always the go-to. And I'm like, I was like, well, and I didn't know what to say and I was just like, I was like, Jess, I was like, yeah, I was like, I would be frustrated with that. I was like, and to be honest, like, because Mason's like that with you and it kind of kills me. I was like, when he walks in the door, his first question when he sees me is, where's mom?
Where's mom?
Like,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
he'll ask you a question. He could have easily have asked me, but he goes to you. I was like, and it kills me. And I totally understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from. But here's the thing. We left that conversation in a rush. And then tomorrow we have a date day.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, my plan for our date day is to say, you know what? I've given, and here's the thing. I easily want to be like, boys, what we need to start doing is you need to start going to mom a little bit too. But that's not what my wife really, I don't think, wants me to do,
Right.
like
That would
solve
be
that
problem
problem.
solving. Yeah.
Right. Instead, so my plan tomorrow is this. I'm going to say something like this in a voice tone that's loving. You know, I've given yesterday like a lot of thought. And you sharing with me what you did about your frustration that the kids don't come to you as much as you want, man, like that hit me in the heart.
Hmm.
And I really, to be honest, I just want you to tell me more about that and your experience with it,
Well,
and for us to just talk about it.
yeah.
And then just, and I don't have an agenda.
You don't
Like I'm
have to,
not
right.
talking
Then you
to,
don't have to plan after that.
no, I'm
Yeah.
not doing that because I want to like get in her pants, or I'm doing that because I love her and I want her to talk.
Yeah.
Because the more she holds that stuff in, the more animosity and maybe resentment and
Totally.
disruption it's going to feel.
Yeah.
But those are the ways we can have conversations like that and just be a good hearted listener.
Yeah. I love this. Okay. Time is running short, but we didn't get to everything we thought we were going to talk
Sorry.
about. But I think this is really useful. And yeah, no apologies. I feel like, similar to the whatever, whether it's man, woman, whoever, but the masculine brain can be like, okay, this is where we're going, right? This is the path we're on. And I think we took the path of really just being with exactly what's here in this moment and what's coming through you and the wisdom you have in your experience with your wife. So I feel grateful, incredibly grateful that you are a man who has learned to listen in this way and to love and care in this way. And again, any type of problem solving comes from a very caring, loving place. And to be willing to stretch yourself into some of these different qualities where a woman actually feels heard and seen and loved is it's to me it touches my heart, and I know it's not easy, so thank you for doing that and for teaching other men to do the same.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Is
Back
there
at you.
any other last thing that you want to leave men with for today, and then maybe we'll come back to some of the other pieces on another episode?
I could do like just a lightning on any other questions you have, and I promise I can be quick if you want,
Yeah.
if you have anything else.
um Maybe one tip for how you're navigating the cell phone media, like how you're actually paying attention to her and letting some of that go.
Yeah. So I made a promise at our summit last year that I was going to be away from my phone from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every night. And I didn't start keeping that promise until about a month ago. Um, I could have all the excuses in the world. I was going through a bit of a hard time. I was injured with my knee. I went through literally a 5 month ordeal where couldn't do
Sorry.
much, needed surgery. It was absolutely crazy, but I won't get into that. But I allowed myself to break that promise, which there's no excuse around that. And then I'm in an accountability group with 3 other men. And I'm like, you know what? I need to do this. I need to do this until October. My minimum goal is 25 hours a week away from my phone in the evenings. So if you really average that out, that's 4 to 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because on some weeks I'm hitting 35 hours of
Yeah.
almost a full work week without my phone.
Yeah.
I use this device called the Aro. It's ARO, and it's literally like a charging station slash box that comes with an app. And the app actually measures your time. It gamifies it.
Yeah.
It measures your time away from your phone.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's not on the counter, not in your pocket. It's away and put away.
Okay. So
And
just for the lightning round, because I think we could go into so many pieces of this. I think what I really want men to hear is like, what's the impact? What's the
yeah,
impact been on your family and your wife, your relationship in setting the phone aside and paying attention and being present?
so I always thought I was being more intentional if my phone was in my pocket. But quite frankly, if you hear a buzz in your pocket, you lose whatever intentionality you have because you're
Yeah.
distracted. What was that? What do I need to get back with? So what I found is that my anxiety level was much lower.
Yeah.
Like my distraction level was I didn't really hardly have any distraction. Like I
Wow.
was forced to be 100% present in the room with these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I also thought too, another really revealing thing is that I thought like I'd be missing out on, oh, I need to respond to emails or DMs or social or whatever else. And I didn't miss a beat. In fact, what I found was, and what I'm finding is, the reason my phone is so busy is actually not because people paying me. Yes, that does
You were
happen,
actually creating it.
but I was the one who's actually creating it. Like
So,
if
okay,
I
so
create,
what are your family and your wife saying? Like, are they noticing the impact?
I don't know, to be
Okay. So
honest,
it's not about
because I
that.
have,
It's actually more
yeah,
about you.
yeah.
Okay.
And the reason I say I don't know is because I didn't make this grandiose announcement to my family that this is what
Okay.
I'm doing. I just
Just
started
did
doing
it.
it.
I like that.
And I would make a point to say it. I'm like, I'm gonna put my phone in the RO for the night.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for them to say something. I don't know if they will or not, but that's not what I'm doing it for. But
Right. That's what
it's
I'm getting
mostly,
to. You're not doing
yeah,
it
my own
for
experiment.
that response or reaction. You're doing it so that you can be in integrity with yourself and actually know
Correct.
that you are present.
Yeah. What I
Amazing.
want to do over 10 weeks is log approximately or close to 300 hours. Once I get to that point,
Yeah.
I want to show my family like, hey, I've logged almost 300 hours away from my phone. Have you noticed any differences in me or
Yeah.
our interaction? And then get feedback then.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. That's inspiring. It has me feel like, oh, I can do that in the evening with my kid too. Because there's constantly, I mean, and it feels needed for planning and organizing and texting people to, rides in the morning and this and that. But I think there is a way that it gets in the way of connection.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And thank you
Same.
again for being on the edge of men and just being so I don't know. There's a word for it. I mean, I think you've said this to me too, but in your presence, right? I feel more relaxed. I feel more seen. And so it's a beautiful example for the other men that you are supporting and for all the men who are listening.
Well, thank you. Same
Yeah.
back at you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.